Pair of insiders for you today, Pierre LeBrun and Darren Dreger. Now that we're into the new year, Trade Center starts coming at you fast in terms of weeks now, not months. 8 weeks away, and we start to stare at teams at or near the bottom of the standings. Calgary is one of those. Dregs, does a Nazem Kadri deal still seem like a distinct possibility?
Yeah, I would describe it as a possibility, and you're right. I mean, the calendar is flipped. We're into the second half of the NHL regular season. You've got another roster freeze that is looming with the Olympic break, and then you've got the March 6th NHL trade deadline. My sense with Nazem Kadri is this, that if an opportunity was presented to go to a top contender in the NHL, then he'd be willing to listen to that. I mean, the man is 35 years old, and he wants to win a Stanley Cup. Now, he's not going to push it, and we know that the Calgary Flames have other pieces that probably are drawing more of the attention from Craig Conroy's perspective, but the intensity around Kadri is definitely heating up.
Yeah, I'd say one of those pieces that continues to draw a lot of attention is Blake Coleman. Dregs, we've talked about him before, but in this sense here, I would say he's a guy that's pretty high up on the list of the Montreal Canadiens as they start to assemble their trade target list ahead of March 6th. You know, Coleman brings some of the skill set that perhaps the Habs feel they're missing in terms of his physicality, his versatility, his leadership. He's a two-time Stanley Cup champion and so on. So I do believe the Habs and the Flames have had conversations, but nothing imminent, and for a couple of reasons. One, I think the Habs want to get the Olympic break and see where they are in the standings and see where they are health-wise before they decide whether or not to jump in on something like that. And certainly Calgary hasn't given up on the season either, despite where they are in the standings. So this is not something that I think is imminent. One final thing on Coleman. He has a modified no trade. He can say no to 2/3 of the league, basically. So he would certainly have a say, and lots of teams have interest in Blake Coleman if and when Calgary makes him available.
The Devils' 9-0 loss to the Islanders a couple of nights ago. One of those moments, one of those scores that can incite panic, anger, or potentially change. What's the latest from New Jersey?
Well, you're right. I mean, the New Jersey Devils are floundering. That's plain and that's simple. And there are some in that market that are screaming for change. Both the general manager, Tom Fitzgerald, maybe the future of Sheldon Keefe as head coach in question as well. But look, job security isn't a primary concern for Fitzgerald. It just isn't. I mean, he talks to ownership on a weekly basis. They know that the path that the general manager is trying to take with his team, but it's also abundantly clear that some form of change has to come if they don't turn this around immediately. And he is trying to shake things up and shake things up in a significant way. He's looking to add a forward, a top six piece that can help them in the goal scoring department. The problem is, as we all know, that the market from a trade perspective is a little thin and quiet right now, but Fitzgerald is wanting to be aggressive.
When Team Canada announced its Olympic roster, they said they clearly have a reserve, but they didn't really say who's on it or how big is it. Just how big is it, Pierre? How many potentials there?
Well, according to the rules, if they wanted, it could be everyone that was left from the original IOC long list that had 90-plus names. So in theory, it could be 60-plus names. Well, it's not 60-plus names. Obviously, that's not realistic. So Team Canada went ahead and shortened that. They have about 15 names, I'm told, on their reserve list right now. All of those players have been advised of that and made sure that they're comfortable staying in the IOC drug testing protocol. None of the Canadian players on that list have opted out to this point. So 15 or so gives them flexibility. Some guys might get hot, some guys might get cold, and depending on the injury, as Doug Armstrong said on your panel, James, after naming the team, you know, that will affect which guy is called depending on the injury. So some of the forwards we know are on it. You know, Sam Bennett, Connor Bedard, Wyatt Johnston, Mark Scheifele, Seth Jarvis, Travis Konechny, all a part of that reserve list up front.
Lastly, one of the wildest pieces of hockey video we've seen in a while comes out of the St. Louis game last night, where Jim Montgomery seems to be signaling for Jordan Binnington to come out. Binnington doesn't come out. And then you get Joel Hofer peeking out from the dressing room. Apparently the reality to what happened, not as salacious as it looked, Pierre?
No, there is, in fact, an explanation, and this wasn't Jordan Binnington doing Jordan Binnington things. In fact, he was ready to come out, but in talking to the Blues today, what happened is Joel Hofer was half geared up. He wasn't ready to come into the game. He was in the dressing room in Chicago. That's not a great rink for the visiting team where the backup goalie goes. And by the time he got communication that it was time for him to come in, the puck had already dropped by the time he got his gear on. The trainer wasn't around trying to get his gear. So when Binnington realized Hofer wasn't coming, he said, well, I guess I'm going back in, and that's exactly what happened.
If nothing else, Hofer's created a great meme that will likely last for years.